The persistent footsteps. Late one night, a woman found herself alone in her house. As she settled into bed, she began hearing faint footsteps downstairs. Assuming it was just her imagination, she tried to ignore it. But the footsteps grew louder and closer, as if someone was climbing the stairs. Terrified, she called the police. When they arrived and searched the house, they found no signs of forced entry or anyone inside. The source of the footsteps remains a mystery to this day. The sinister phone call. A man was home alone, watching TV, when he received a chilling phone call. The voice on the other end whispered his name and said, "I can see you." Panic-stricken, he hung up and locked all the doors and windows. Minutes later, the phone rang again. This time, the voice said, "I'm inside the house." The man immediately fled his home and called the police. They arrived to find an intruder hiding in his closet. The mysterious shadow. Late at night, a teenager was home alone, engrossed in a video game. Suddenly, he noticed a dark figure standing outside his window, illuminated by the streetlight. Startled, he ran to his parents' room and called the police. When they arrived, they searched the area but found no trace of the mysterious figure. To this day, the teenager is haunted by the image of the eerie shadow lurking outside his window. The haunted basement. A couple moved into a new house with an unfinished basement. One evening, the husband went downstairs to retrieve something. As he descended the steps, he felt an icy breeze and heard faint whispers. He quickly grabbed what he needed and rushed back upstairs. From that day on, strange occurrences plagued the couple. Objects would move on their own, and eerie noises echoed throughout the house. They eventually moved out, unable to escape the haunting presence in their basement. The persistent knocking. A woman was home alone, working on her computer, when she heard a loud, persistent knocking at the front door. Curiosity getting the better of her, she peered through the peephole, but saw no one. The knocking continued, growing more insistent. Frightened, she called her neighbor for help. When he arrived, they discovered a crazed man hiding behind the bushes, pounding on the door. The man was arrested, but his motive for targeting the woman remains unknown. Please note that these stories are for entertainment purposes only. While they are based on the concept of true events, their authenticity cannot be verified. Enjoy reading with caution. Story 1. The mysterious phone call. Late one night, Sarah was home alone, enjoying a quiet evening. Suddenly, the phone rang. She picked it up and heard heavy breathing on the other end. Terrified, she hung up and brushed it off as a prank call. However, the phone rang again, and this time a voice whispered, "I'm watching you." Shaken, Sarah called the police, who quickly arrived and traced the call. To her horror, they informed her that the calls were coming from inside the house. The intruder was hiding in the basement, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Story 2. The shadow in the mirror. Emily was getting ready for bed when she caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure in the mirror behind her. Startled, she turned around, but there was no one there. Thinking it was just her imagination, she continued her nightly routine. However, every time she glanced into the mirror, the shadowy figure appeared closer. Terrified, she locked herself in her room and called her neighbor. When the neighbor arrived, they discovered that the figure was a reflection of a masked intruder hiding in Emily's closet. Story 3, The Vanishing Keys. Daniel returned home after a long day of work and placed his keys on the kitchen counter. The next morning, as he was getting ready to leave, he couldn't find his keys anywhere. Frantically searching the entire house, he started to panic. Just as he was about to give up, he noticed his keys sitting right where he had left them the previous night. Bewildered, he grabbed them and rushed out the door. Later that day, Daniel received a call from a detective, informing him that a notorious thief had broken into his house the previous night. The thief had taken his keys and duplicated them, planning to return and rob the house when Daniel was away. Story 4, The Haunted Doll. Hannah had always been fascinated by antique dolls, so when she found a beautiful porcelain doll at a garage sale, she couldn't resist buying it. Little did she know that the doll had a dark secret. Strange occurrences started happening as soon as she brought it home. Objects moved on their own, and eerie whispers could be heard late at night. The doll seemed to watch Hannah, its eyes following her every move. One night, Hannah woke up to find the doll sitting at the foot of her bed, its porcelain face contorted into a sinister grin. Terrified, she threw the doll out, but it mysteriously reappeared on her doorstep the next day. Story 5, The Disappearing Neighbor. Michael lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood, and he had always been friendly with his neighbors. One day, he noticed that his next-door neighbor, Mr. Johnson, had been acting strangely. He rarely left his house and seemed to avoid any interaction. Concerned, Michael decided to check on him. As he approached the front door, he noticed a foul odor emanating from inside the house. He called the police, who discovered Mr. Johnson's lifeless body. The strange part was that there was no evidence of how he died or how long he had been dead. It was as if he had simply vanished from the world, leaving behind an unsolved mystery that still haunts the neighborhood. The doll had a dark secret. Strange occurrences started happening as soon as she brought it home. Objects moved on their own, and eerie whispers could be heard late at night. The doll seemed to watch Hannah, its eyes following her every move. One night, Hannah woke up to find the doll sitting at the foot of her bed, its porcelain face contorted into a sinister grin. Terrified, she threw the doll out, but it mysteriously reappeared on her doorstep the next day. Story 5, The Disappearing Neighbor. Michael lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood, and he had always been friendly with his neighbors. One day,